Good afternoon. Welcome to Community and Technology. We connect the global community with news, information, and resources that we hope will help improve your life. I'm Stu Reid. Here with my co-host, Dave Burstein. Hey, Dave.
Hey, yeah.
How's the weather out your way, Dave?
Well, it's not so bad, but there's some really strong heat coming.
Okay. What's the
90s and
forecast?
maybe 90s and maybe 100
Wow.
and high humidity. Every reason to be careful, every reason to be worried and take take shelter if need be.
Mhm.
They usually open up the schools if they have air conditioning as a place people can shelter. And if you need it, go for it.
Okay, and do check out our WHCREBT.org site. We'll have some postings up there of things to do in the extreme heat. That's our WEBT emergency preparedness site at WHCREBT.org. So I just wanted to mention, Dave, today is Juneteenth, June 19th, celebration of the freedom for Black folks across America. And I know there are a lot of celebrations going on. And I just want to remind folks, that it's a celebration of freedom, not just for Black folks, although that is the genesis of the holiday, but it's a celebration of freedom for the entire country. And in my mind, much more authentic a holiday than the July 4th holiday. So happy Juneteenth to all folks out there in our audience. Okay, what's going on technology-wise, Dave? What's up? I
Well,
saw you.
let's follow up on a couple of stories that we've had where
Mhm.
more things have happened. And then we'll go to some of the stories you picked, I think.
Okay, I think you had a follow-up on deep fake, something that we've been talking about a lot lately, right?
Yep.
What's going on?
Well, there may actually be some law against it. There apparently isn't now. They're stretching existing laws uh, in order to try to put some people away who are doing it. But Congress is probably, according to the news, going to put a national law against, well, not all deepfakes, of course, but the non-consensual porn generated by AI.
Mhm. What is that?
One of
What is non-consensual porn, Dave, on generated by AI? What is that?
consensual porn in the United States at this time, pornography produced by and for consenting adults is completely illegal. That's not
Legal.
true
Mhm.
in most
Mhm.
of the world, and it certainly wasn't true in the American past. Wasn't that long ago you couldn't get a copy of Ulysses, which many people think is the finest novel of the last 100 odd years. One of the people proposing the law is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the representative from a district that's mostly in Queens.
Mhm.
Somebody took some video of her, put the face, put the body of a porno actress replacing her body, and distributed that widely. So that
Wow.
really brought it home to Congress, and maybe they'll do something. Now,
Mhm.
the legislation hasn't been happening, just as the privacy legislation hasn't been happening. Why? Well, you read the papers and you say, oh, this controversy and questions and so on. But the real answer is that Google and Microsoft and Amazon and Facebook are all spending over $100 million a year lobbying Washington.
Wow.
And you get what you pay for,
Mhm.
especially in the American Congress.
Mhm. Now, Dave, just a question for clarification. It sounds like just based on what you just said about the lobbying by the tech platforms. that they are busy protecting their so-called right of free speech. That is, they're not liable for any content on their platforms, which I guess makes it very difficult for law enforcement to go after anyone. Because I mean, how can they drill down to the actual perpetrators of these deepfakes as opposed to the platforms where they appear?
May very well be in Ukraine or Russia, uh, and a little bit away from American jurisdiction. There's a much better story though. Microsoft has backed down on their enormous store they would make of everything you ever did on your computer. They would take a screenshot every 5 minutes, store it on your computer or your phone, and allow you to find things. Now, this sounds wonderful if you're trying to find, oh, a picture of Aunt Sally from 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Or in my case, I'm always looking for people that I had correspondence with to check their email. The problem is that as soon as you get hacked, suddenly somebody has your entire life story.
This is the so-called recall feature that Microsoft was promoting, right? Recall.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And they've now agreed that they will not turn it on without your explicit approval, which is the way everything should be.
Mm-hmm.
That you not get spammed or worse without having the chance to avoid it.
Well, let me ask you this: can somebody hack into your PC and turn it on without you knowing it? And then it's on, and then they have access to all your activity.
Yeah, or mine is on almost all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I let it go to sleep when I'm not using it, as opposed to shutting it down. And a lot of people are like that. So we know how easy it is to hack. You've got a story there. Tell me about a $22 million hack that you noticed.
Yeah, there's something that they call it ransomware, where these hackers are going into medical technology and medical service providers' software and debilitating them, and then charging all kinds of crazy money, essentially extorting money out of the medical establishment. Just recently, a company called Change Health paid $22 million to a ransomware group. And then there's a firm that keeps track of this stuff. That healthcare, Change Healthcare happened in March, but then in April, the cybersecurity firm Recorded Future tracked 44 cases of cyber criminal groups targeting healthcare organizations. And they do all kinds of things when they attack the medical establishments. One of the things that happened in the most recent attack is they couldn't dispatch ambulances, surgeries are delayed, donations of blood types are disrupted because they don't have access to the records. And essentially, these medical establishments are kind of brought to their knees by these ransomware groups. The advocates on the other side say that the medical establishment should not pay the ransom because it just incentivizes more ransomware actors to go after healthcare providers. But it looks as though many of the healthcare providers just simply have no way of fighting these attacks. And it's either pay or shut down and potentially lose lives. So this is something that's been going on for several years. It looks like there's a spike in 23, 24. And, I don't know that the industry really has a solution to this, Dave. Apparently, the attacks have been snowballing. And now why there is no ransomware police, if you will, or some sort of why there haven't emerged any security companies that can go after these guys or that can go in and and counter the attacks? I don't know. Maybe you could shed some light on that, Dave, as to why these attacks seem to be intractable, but apparently they are.
Well, I don't know how to protect a hospital or my computer
Hmm.
against a very well-grounded attack. There is nothing that is unhackable, and that's been demonstrated by hacks against the US security apparatus.
Right.
Every year or two, we hear another story that somebody got into the NSA or the CIA or Homeland Security. If those guys can't protect themselves, how is a local medical chain going to, much less me? Now, they have lots of people who earn their living trying to establish computer security, but they never get it complete. And the evidence is there. Recorded Future tracked 44 cases just of going into healthcare. That's a lot. That's from Wired. Now, how do you react to that? One, obviously, if you're in business, you have to be prepared to be hacked. There's a lot of ways you can and should do it. For example, medical records should routinely be encoded. So if somebody gets into the system, or more likely, in fact, somebody who's in the system, somebody in the hospital pharmacy or whatever, can't find the information. I remember being shocked many, many years ago. I was working in a medical clinic, and one of my jobs included going over the charts of everybody who visited, looking for who needed additional tests. Well, I discovered that one of the top labor leaders in New York had a heart condition. I didn't use that information. I don't think I ever mentioned it before to anyone. But that's the kind of thing that happens day in and day out. It even happens with the people who are supposed to be protecting us, the police, who often have gone in to find the stuff that makes the papers, is things like somebody going after an ex-wife
Hmm.
and stalking them.
Let me ask you this, Dave. It's probably a little bit outside of our maybe your area of expertise, but is there should some of these systems consider having analog backup, having some sort of backup system that is offline, that's not connected to an outside network, whether it be just a parallel network, whether it be a paper network, but some sort of offline backup system where, especially for critical services such as a hospital, so that you don't get totally shut down if somebody gets in there. Is that
Well,
realistic or cost prohibitive?
it is cost prohibitive.
Hmm.
You put an air gap system there, just the time to get something to that air gap system is a long time when
Well,
you're
air
backing
gap.
up.
What's an air gap system, Dave? I'm not familiar with that term.
Well, how do you protect against a hack when you're really serious? You don't connect that computer to anything.
Right.
You put a gap of air
Okay.
between that computer
Gotcha.
and any other computer or communications tool that could access it. But there's a lot of data in a medical system, a whole lot. So it would be quite something to back all of that up. You do. In home, we always used to teach people that they should always have three backups or three systems, often called father, son, and grandson. And after you get to the third, when you need to make to the next backup, you write it over what you had before. That's far too much work for most people. Almost nobody is properly backed up.
Yeah.
Uh, I haven't always been properly backed up. And I did, in fact, have the customer who needed the backup, or we thought needed the backup, because their office had a fire.
Mm.
That can happen. That does happen. Uh, and two of my websites have been hacked over the last 15 years. And that was horrendous. I was working about 4 days trying to restore the whole system.
And that's just that's just your individual system. I imagine being a hospital with thousands of records. I mean, but David, it's pretty frightening when you think big picture, how vulnerable our whole healthcare system is. If folks can go in there and shut down a hospital or severely cripple it to the point where they're going to pay out millions of dollars in ransomware, I mean, where does that end? Where does that go? How do as a nation, as looking at the big picture, what's the solution? Is there one?
Well, one solution that many people would talk about, but fortunately is not being done, is send a predator drone to the headquarters of one of those presumed ransomware gangs and start dropping bombs.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Well, 274 people were killed in a recent raid within the context of the Israel-Palestine war.
Hmm.
And it's probably a higher number than that because some of them are probably under the rubble of the buildings.
Hmm. Was that a drone
People
attack?
really do that when they're trying to get people.
Hmm.
Uh, and the US is very proud. We now can manage to kill somebody 1,000 miles away from one of our bases without being likely to kill the person in the next seat in the car.
Mm.
That you actually can control a drone well enough that it just takes out one person.
Yeah, well, I mean, this recent example in Gaza kind of belies that, Dave. I mean, maybe that's possible on paper, but it doesn't look like it's possible, or they're not actually doing it in reality. I mean, 27 people got killed to.
Now,
Oh,
274
sorry,
people
excuse me.
got killed. You left out a
Okay.
decimal point.
Yeah, geez. Wow.
Yeah. And that's going to happen more and more because warfare is getting increasingly mechanized
Hmm.
by Ukraine, by Israel, by the United States, presumably also by Russia and China, who have the largest militaries, one of which is actively involved in a war that's killed 100,000 people.
Wow.
So, and what they are all doing is they are getting humans out of the loop. They're putting autonomous drones out there. I've got one news report that says Ukraine is already doing that. That because it was hard to keep track of the drones, to communicate with them, because the Russians were jamming all the signals, they set up the drones to go ahead and take out any target it found.
Wow.
Now, drone radar can probably pick out a tank on the battlefield, but it's not always going to be accurate.
Hmm. Hmm.
And most people, almost everyone in the world, has been saying we have to do something to prevent autonomous weapons because they're going to be out of control.
Yeah.
And that has been blocked internationally. I had one story here a few months back where every country from Mexico, South America, Central America, all the way down to Chile, had come together in a group and said we should have a treaty that outlaws weapons that kill people on their own. Killer robots, if you want to call them that.
Hmm.
That was blocked by the United States
Mm.
to our ever extreme embarrassment.
Yeah, Dave, I just wanted to interject. Years ago, when we were much more naive, if you will, And, we talked about mechanization of war and automation of war. At least in my mind, what I remember is thinking that, okay, it was going to be robots fighting robots, but it hasn't it hasn't turned out that way. You got
It's
robots
drones
killing
fighting
people,
missiles.
huh?
And the thing that we're seeing massively,
Hmm.
for example, over Ukraine, the Russians will send 100 or even several hundred drones or missiles, and the US supplied anti-aircraft, anti-drone, anti-missiles managed to take out most of them.
Hmm.
Now, when you're trying to go after a missile that is going very fast, you don't have time to ask your supervisor, are you sure this is a missile before we destroy it? You don't have time to get a human in the loop.
Hmm.
And most of the militaries wouldn't even bother if they had their choice. Now, there is, so we know that Ukraine is doing it. There's pretty good evidence from which people can infer that the Israelis are doing that based on all the errors they've been having, doing things like taking out people delivering uh, food to starving people.
Hmm.
Uh, and there's no reason to think any other government would be any different. But these happen to be the ones who have the ability and are at war. But this is the one that really surprised me. A US admiral, in talking at a conference, and they have tape of it, has said, well, if the Chinese decide to invade Taiwan, quote, we're going to make a hellhole of the China Strait. That nothing will be able to go through without being attacked by US missiles and drones. Those are obviously going to be working without supervision. You can't do things fast enough to supervise something like that. And here's the quote: lethal drones could make the military miserable. That's the plan, according to the top US admiral in the Pacific, who said the hellscape strategy is designed to distract China and buy the United States some time to respond. We certainly don't have enough troops on Taiwan, and the Taiwanese themselves certainly don't have enough troops to defend. Quote from the Washington Post: I would have turned the Taiwan Strait into an unmanned hellscape using a number of classified capabilities.
Hmm.
Now, we can guess what those classified capabilities are because we know that, among other things, this year alone, we're spending $1 billion on one potentially autonomous weapon system. And officially, we don't enable the autonomous system, but if we wanted to, and many countries in time of war would not hesitate, you could just turn those loose on the 100 miles between Taiwan and the mainland so that a troop carrier can't get through. That is the reality of this world and
Yeah,
something to
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
And ugly.
Yeah, AI is really, I hesitate to use the word improving the techniques of warfare because, it's hard to talk about improving the methods of killing people. But they are certainly escalating capabilities. And you mentioned a term earlier. You said taking people out of the loop. It's taking people out of the decision making, but still at the end of the movie is people that are dying as a result of these weapons. So that hasn't changed, Dave. But we got to take a break here, Dave. We're about at the halfway point. And when we come back, there's so much going on with AI. I want to take a move away from some of the negativity. Well, I guess, I'm not sure this is not negative also, but it's a very different story from the
There's a
weapons.
$1 billion warranty up there to the top AI artist working with Suno, a music
Oh,
program.
okay. So let's
And
talk
we'll
about
bring that
that.
out after we'll talk about
Yeah.
that after
I
the
also
break.
want to talk about the AI candidate that's running for office in the UK. Very interesting. Yeah.
And there's another one in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Okay.
And
All right.
and what would happen if they actually won?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, there was a time when they put one of the animals in the Buenos Aires zoo was elected mayor.
Okay.
That was a protest vote, of course.
Okay.
But it did happen 20 or 30 years ago.
Okay. Well, stay tuned. We got a lot to talk about. This is Community Technology, Dave Burstein and Stu Reid on WHCR 90.3 FM. We'll be right back after a brief musical break.
A celebration to last throughout the years. So bring your good times and your laughter too. We gon' celebrate your party with you. Come on now. Celebration. Let's all celebrate and have a good time. Celebration. We gon' celebrate and have a good time. It's time to come together. It's up to you. What's your pleasure? Everyone around the world, come on! It's a celebration. It's a celebration. Celebrate good times, come on. Let's celebrate. There's a party going on right here. A dedication to last throughout the years. So bring your good times and your laughter too. We gon' celebrate and party with you. Come on now. Let's all celebrate and have a good time, yeah, yeah. Celebration. We gon' celebrate and have a good time. It's time to come together. It's up to you. What's your pleasure? Everyone around the world, come on! It's a celebration. It's a celebration. Celebrate good times, come on. Let's celebrate. Come on now. Celebrate good times, come on. Let's celebrate. We're gonna have a good time tonight. Let's celebrate. It's alright. We're gonna have a good time tonight. Let's celebrate. It's alright, baby. We're gonna have a good time tonight. Let's celebrate. Let's celebrate. It's alright.
Okay, we're back. Community and
There is-
Technology with Jay Burstein and Stu Reid on WHCR 90.3 FM. We've been talking about AI, of course, is dominating so much of the technology landscape, but now it's having some impact on music. Dave, what's the latest story on AI and music?
Well, Suno, one of the two top artificial intelligence music creation programs, has put up $1 million as a prize to the best creation using their software. In fact, I don't know if you even have to use their software.
This is a music creation using AI.
Yep. They raised 125 million not long ago, so they can afford to put that out for the publicity. Now, how good do you think Suno is? Suno and Udio are the two most liked music creation programs. Stu, what do you think the quality is?
You know, I really don't know, Dave. I would think it would be a little bit soulless, but you know, maybe they had figured out how to copy soul. I don't know. Maybe they figured out how to copy you know, the real essence of what we consider you know, what did Duke Ellington used to say? Don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. I don't know if AI can do that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they can copy it. They got a lot of stuff out there to learn from in terms of the musical lexicon. But what are they doing so far? What's it look like?
It's not that good yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say that because Jenny and I spent some time on Suno trying to come up with some background music for a video she's doing. It works. You can turn around and say, I want 100, as we did, I want 150 beats per minute, upbeat, for the background of a scene, for a jewelry contest. And we got music that sounded like it came from a professional. Not a great creative professional, but the quality of the music coming out of it is good. Well, I hate to say this, probably as good as some things that make the top 10 these days. But that was true. That was true when we were kids. Do you remember On Top of Spaghetti or Covered with Glue? I don't remember the last name.
Yeah, I can remember, yeah, there were some crazy tunes back in the day, Dave, back when we were youngsters. Yeah.
There's plenty of crazy stuff now.
Purple People Eaters.
What I can tell you is that Suno can make not fascinating, not intensely creative, but perfectly functional music that sounds like professional performers. And we did it. And I'm told, or I read, that Udio is just as good, that they're competing pretty widely. That's how good things are going. We opened this show with Congress may push a law against deep fakes because somebody did that to a congresswoman and replaced them with the video of a porno actress with that congresswoman's face. There is another one. Here's another deep fake story that we all should be aware of. We have gotten to the point where you can't trust anything unless you actually know the source and can trust them. Charlie Go, who is a reporter who does a lot of reporting on artificial intelligence, wrote, I fell for a deep fake Elon Musk cryptocurrency scam bait. That he was looking for some footage of SpaceX, went to Google, found a link on Google that had been manipulated, as you do with search engine optimization, to take him to a multiple from SpaceX itself and clicked on one, intending to watch a recording of the morning's lunch. Elon, in this video, Elon was on stage in front of a small crowd. Massive Starship engines behind him, and they had a picture, and a slideshow to his right. He was midway through some sort of presentation. So I figured I'd sort of get some work done by listening to him in the background. Except then I kept listening. It became clear that the Elon was trying to sell me on a once-in-a-lifetime chance to immediately double my Bitcoin and Ether.
Uh-oh.
And a multi-million-dollar SpaceX giveaway, which I could do by scanning the QR code on the screen. So Charlie, who has the cute name for his publication of Artificial Ignorance, was honest. I fell for a deepfake of Elon Musk. It was looking so good. He thought it was an Elon Musk till he had heard enough of it to realize it couldn't possibly be Elon Musk, who would not be promoting a garbage scam in cryptocurrency.
So the deep fake was actually trying to solicit money from folks who didn't know any better.
Yep. And obviously, as he says, this is a guy who earns his living writing about artificial intelligence. He knows.
And it fooled him.
It fooled him.
Wow.
And that's how stronger they've gotten. You can do that. You definitely can turn around and say, I want a song by Little Nas or Taylor Swift or whatever musician you want, talking about the beauties of New Rochelle, where there's an opportunity to go to the Juneteenth celebration that Stu has organized and have it sound like it's Taylor Swift or Chuck D or anyone else who's recorded enough music to make a master. This is happening all the time. We talked about the election in India in a previous show. In India, all the parties had a large team working on detecting deepfakes from their opposition and often creating deepfakes. Apparently, the Prime Minister Modi was dancing in a way that a man of his age couldn't have. It was, of course, a deepfake, approved probably by Mr. Modi. It came out of his party. And that's it. In addition to which, how many languages do you think Prime Minister Modi knows and can speak in a fluent voice?
I really have no idea, but unlike most Americans where we speak one language, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe 3 or 4.
And in India, for historical reasons, there are dozens of languages, and apparently he knew how to speak in 10 of them because they took his recording in possibly in Hindi, possibly in English, and replaced it, tied into, or they could have done tied into, his actual movements of his mouth, so that it really looked authentic in 10 different languages, like Telugu.
Wow.
Now, is that legitimate? I think it's a good thing to address the people whose only language is Telugu in Telugu.
Yeah.
There's a lot of American politicians who learned how to talk in Spanish because they wanted to appeal to Spanish voters. But this is what's possible. There's a remarkable video, comes from Microsoft, where not merely are you replacing the words coming out of someone's mouth, but it takes the head, the face, and has it, as Stu can see me now because we have the video, with the authentic movements of the chin and the cheek and the head, that you're sure this is real.
Wow.
And it wasn't.
Well, Dave,
That's
yeah, that's, what you talk about there sounds like a positive use of folks being able to reach out to communities and constituencies in their own language that would not normally be possible. But the potential for abuse is staggering, as to how that could be misused. But Dave, I wanted to a related story in another way, talk about something going on over in England, in the United Kingdom, where there is an AI candidate running for office. His name is AI Steve, and he's the avatar of a real life candidate, a guy named Stephen Endicott, who's a Brighton-based businessman who's running for parliament. Just not coincidentally, the same guy owns a company called NeuroVoice, and he designed this avatar, which he's using to connect with potential voters. Now he's using it in a way, Dave. This guy is saying, "Hey, well, this is a way that I can have 10,000 conversations at once with my constituencies." He said it's a way for him to reach out to people and to get them to talk to him and to give him feedback about how they want him to vote on policies and concerns that they want him to pick up. And apparently, according to AI Steve, it's a very robust way, in his thinking, to really kind of lift up democracy and include many more voices in his decision making. And he's even quoted as saying that he's going to vote based on the preferences that are expressed through AI Steve. He's not going to vote his own thinking. He's not going to vote his own opinions on this, that, or the other. He's going to vote according to what his avatar, AI Steve, has collected from his constituency. It sounds like an interesting way to kind of reach out and touch, if you will, your constituents. What do you think about that, Dave?
Well, the easy thing to say is I know a lot of politicians who simply should be replaced by an artificial intelligence. And that's what most people think, frankly.
Yeah.
And that's what we think of politics. And we know how corrupt American politics are, and we're less corrupt than many others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I thought this was an interesting, novel way, kind of turning AI on its head. We've just been talking about deep fakes and using AI to emulate folks. But this is an AI avatar that is actually reaching out and collecting information and from constituents and having conversations with constituents in a way that a single person could not. I think it's worth keeping an eye on. I'm not sure I actually believe he's going to vote according to what his AI avatar tells him, but it's going to be interesting. Well, he's got to get elected first, but it's going to be an interesting story to keep an eye on. AI Steve in the United Kingdom running for parliament.
And it turns out that right now, Vic, VIC, I'm not sure what it stands for, is running for mayor of Cheyenne, Wyoming. The same story. The human being who's responsible will actually take the seat, but vote the way the AI says.
Mm-hmm.
The AI is going to be informed by comments from everybody in the district. If Vic is elected, says the Cowboy State Daily, and yes, the official campaign rolls list Vic, Miller said he would continue his practice and have a camera positioned at his laptop to prove it. You don't need to believe in my campaign promise that I'm going to let this machine do 100% of the voting. Miller, who created this bot, said. And he thinks, well, the mayor or member of the city council, they get a gist of the ideas. We're letting people talk to them about how they should vote and how the people think they're being influenced. And that's how the vote is created right now. It's not created by that dense, thick information or supporting documents. That's what I feed into Vic, the AI. I don't think either of these folks are going to win, but we know that at some point AIs are going to be conscious like people are. Some people think that's very close. Some people think that's 200 years away. You're seeing, quote, sparks of consciousness in an AI at Microsoft. They're not saying it's fully conscious. And how are we going to deal with it? If you pull the plug on the AI, are you a murderer? These questions are going to need to be answered sometime, and maybe sooner than you think.
I suspect so, Dave. I don't think it's going to be 200 years. The way that stuff is moving at lightning speed. I think we just started talking about AI on this show, about a year ago, with the early Chat GPT, and just look at where it is. I mean, I don't know what generation it's in, but we've certainly seen kind of really incredible leaps and bounds in what the technology can do just over the last 12 months.
Now, somebody who agrees with you is the actor Ashton Kutcher, who's also been an investor. We've talked about what you can do with video. Sora made a good-looking 2-minute video where one of the characters did have 6 fingers on his hand.
Oops.
And so on. But the quality looked like it was shot by a pro. And people in Hollywood are very, very scared. Good reason. As Kutcher said, you can create good 10, 15-second videos that look very real. It still makes mistakes. It still doesn't quite understand physics. But if you look at the generation of this that existed 1 year ago, as opposed to Sora, it's leaps and bounds. In fact, there's footage in it that I would say you could easily use in a major motion picture or television show. Now, that's not much of a test, given that there has been a motion picture shot on an iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to use it and getting the quality you want, why would you go out and shoot an establishing shot of a house in a television show when you could just create the establishing shot for $100?
Yeah.
He said, technology is disrupting the film industry and changing the way creativity is approached. To go out and shoot it would cost you thousands of dollars. Action scenes of me jumping off this building, you don't have to have a stunt person do it. You could just go do it with AI.
Wow. Revolutionizing the industry, Dave. Absolutely.
Well, they're saying that soon teenagers will be able to make a whole movie. Now, most of them are going to be awful. Almost all. But some of this will be used by creative people who are going to do great work.
Yeah. Well, I am encouraged by, on the one hand, by the fact that more and more people are going to be able to enter the creative space. Back, just a generation or so ago, you had to have millions of dollars to make a movie. You couldn't even enter the industry without having a lot of money. But now with the advent of portable video and now smartphones and now AI, it just kind of opens up the creative possibilities to everyday folks. So, I mean, that part is good. Now, what can happen abusively on the other side and how that puts traditional folks out of work. That's something else that we're going to have to keep an eye on. But Dave, we're just about out of time. We got to wrap up here.
Let me give you one more warning really
Okay.
quick. Your car is watching you. It is set constantly, in today's top models, sending information back to the car company, who shares it with your insurance company, probably would share it with the cops who think you may have made an illegal turn. And that is something that is going on in millions of cars today.
That's all
Now,
your online apps in your car are, all the apps in the car are for the most part connected online and vulnerable to what Dave's talking about, information sharing with many folks that you haven't given permission to. Yeah.
Yep. And people have demonstrated that they can hack into a car and tell it to pull off the road. And it does.
Well, that's even more scary, Dave, when we look at what's going on with automated, autonomous cars, autonomous driving. Wow, but okay, that's for another show, Dave. That sounds like a deep subject right there. Okay, we're gonna leave it there. This has been Dave Burstein and Stu Reid on WHCR 90.3 FM, Community and Technology. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Tune in. You just might learn something. And by the way, happy Juneteenth. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.